Wonderful, Jay.
Wonderful, Jay. Thank you so much. I protested to help protect Carmana when I was a teenager. That was beautiful, and it was similar to having the ocean in the room earlier today. Just brings us back to our true self. So thank you for that. Lost my order. Our next reader is Sam Hamill, Wisdom. Sam Hamill is the author of 18 volumes of poetry, including Habitation, collected poems, 4 collections of literary essays, and some of the most distinguished translations of ancient Chinese and Japanese classics of the last half-century. He is founding editor and for 32 years, primary editor of Copper Canyon Press. He taught in prisons for 14 years and has worked with battered women and children. In 2003, declining an invitation to the White House, Sam founded Poets Against the War, compiling the largest single-theme poetry anthology in history, 30,000 poems by 26,000 poets. He has been awarded fellowships from the National Endowment for the Arts, the Guggenheim Foundation, the Woodrow Wilson Foundation, the Mellon Fund, and the Japan-US Friendship Commission. Please welcome Sam Hamill.
Thank you. In the 240-year history of the United States of America, we have enjoyed 22 years of peace. Something to chew on. I live under a government to practice perpetual war. This is the New York poem. I sit in the dark, not brooding exactly, not waiting for the dawn that is just beginning at 6:21 in gray October light behind the trees. I sit, breathing, mind turning on its wheel. Hayden writes, "What use is poetry in times like these?" And I suppose I understand when he says a poet simply cannot comprehend any meaning in such slaughter. Nevertheless, in the grip of horror, I turn to poetry, not prose, to help me come to terms, such as can be, with the lies, murders, and breathtaking hypocrisies of those who would lead a nation or a church. What use is poetry? I sat down September 12th, 2001 in the Common Era and read Rumi and kissed the ground. And now that millions starve in the name of holy war, every war is holy. It is the same pathetic story from which we derive biblical proportion. I hear Pilate's footsteps ring on cobblestone, the voice of Joe McCarthy cursing in the Senate, Fat Boy exploding as the whole sky shudders. In New York City, the crashes and subsequent collapses created seismic waves. To begin to speak of the dead, of the dying, how can a poet speak to proportion anymore at all? Yet, as the old Greek said, we walk upon the faces of the dead. The dark fall sky grows blue. Alone among ash and bones and ruins, Dufour and Bachot write the poem. The last trace of blind rage fades, and a mute sadness settles in like dust for the long, long haul. But if I do not get up and sing, if I do not get up and dance again, the savages will win. I'll kiss the sword that kills me if I must. This is the poem I wrote when I began Poets Against the War. It's called Sheepherder Coffee. I used to like sheepherder coffee, a cup of grounds in my old enameled pot, then 3 cups of water and a fire, and when it's hot, boiling into froth, a half cup of cold water to bring the grounds to the bottom. It was strong and bitter and good as I squatted on the riverbank under the great redwoods all those years ago. Some days it was nearly all I got. I was happy with my dog and cases of books in my funky truck. But when I think of that posture now, I can't help but think of Palestinians huddled in their ruins. The Afghan shepherd with his bleeding goats, the widow weeping, sending off her sons, the Tibetan monk who can't go home. There are fewer names for coffee than for love. Squatting, they drink, thinking, waiting for whatever comes. Eyes wide open. The little olive-skinned girl peered up at me from the photograph with her eyes wide open. Deep, brown, beautiful eyes that bore silent witness to a grief as old as the ages. She was young and very beautiful as only the young can be, but within such beauty as bears calamity silently, because it has run out of tears. I closed the magazine and went outside to the woodpile and split a couple of logs, thinking her fire is likely an open fire tonight, bright flames licking and waving like rising pennants in the breeze. When I was a boy, I heard about the bloodshed in Korea, about the Red Army perched at our threshold and the bombs that would annihilate our world forever. I got under my desk with the rest of the foolish world. In Okinawa, I wore the uniform and carried the weapon until my eyes began to open, until I choked on Marine Corps pride, until I came to realize just how willfully I had been blind. How much grief is a life, and what can be done unless we stand among the missing, among the murdered, the orphaned, our own armed children, and bear witness with our eyes wide open. When I was a child, frightened of the night and crying in my bed, my father told me a poem or sang Empty Saddles in the Old Corral. Where do they ride tonight? Homer thought the dead arrived into a field of asphodels. Musashino, near Tokyo, means Musashi's plain, the warrior's way washed in blood. The war songs are sung to the same old marching measures. Oh, how we love to honor the dead. A world without war? Who but a child or a fool could imagine such a thing? Corporate leaders go to school on Shunsa's Art of War. We all deplore it, the president says, issuing bombing orders, but God is on our side. Which blood is Christian? Which Muslim, Jew, or Hindu? The beautiful girl with the beautiful sad eyes watches but has not spoken. What can she possibly say? She carries the burden of finding another way. In her eyes, the ruins, the fear, the shoes that can't be filled, hands that will never stroke her hair. But listen, and you will hear her small, soft, plaintive voice It's already there within you, a heartbeat, a whisper, a promise broken, if only you listen with your eyes wide open. And I just went zooming past my bookmark. No, I didn't. Habitations is the first poem of a trilogy. I'm just going to read the first part of the trilogy to close out my portion of this. I want to thank you all for this conference. It's not just a splendid idea, it's an essential idea. We live in a world in which much of the world is lost. Most people in my country don't have a clue where they live. They may call it Cincinnati, but they don't know what the fuck it is. Habitations. Earth, orange alpine lichen, slowly digesting stone. Black earth, red earth, brown earth, icy dust. Canyons carved through centuries by water and ice. Stone canyons, mountains thrust up by shifting continents. Across the river, the great trees bend in the wind. The living are the habitations of the dead. How small is a man? How small is the man who reads the stones and listens to the whispers of the poplars? How large is the heart that measures the heart of a man with a handful of earth? How much hope and sadness is a man with a handful of earth and a heart that unfolds in the moonlight? Listen closely to the stars, to the flutter of nighthawk wings, to the silence. In the moonlight, the sorcerous river tells its secrets, and the great trees shiver. The great trees shiver, and the river is laughter, and stones are polished by rolling when the river rises. The patience of stone, a congress of trees, the witness of the moon. If only human emotion could be found in the things of this world. Even the river runs out of time and drowns in a desert or empties into an ocean. An ocean of time, vast seas of memory. Detritus contains the seeds of beauty. He dragged from the river an ancient cedar log, half petrified, and used it to bind a book. From shark tooth, cuttlefish, and fossilized ear bone of whale, pigments for ink. From stone, the soul of stone. Earth from earth, transformed, transfixed. From thistle and feather, a made thing. And yet it is an organism. It has a life. I say, the trees listen, and even soil has mind. Soil has a mind that legislates the trees, each grape on the vine, and the trees and wine define the changing light that burns inside the mind. Roots of tribal memory burn in solitude, in the vast unknowing of this known world. Gneiss, shale, sheared marble, schist, granite, black coal compressed into diamond clarity. The whale's ear bone, the great tree blown down, each turning to stone, ground into powder for ink. 100,000 years in one small stone. A feather is a magical thing. And what does it mean? What does it mean when one says the stately poplar or the noble pine? Scrub oak and loblolly, cedar, aspen, and elm. Each has its poet with adjective and rhyme. Because the river, we like to believe, flows through us, and the more noble the tree, the straighter our spines. Down through hardpan, 200 feet, through layers of basalt below the sea, I drilled to tap a river in the earth, a vein, water for a home of cedar and spruce. Holy the water, holy the wood. Holy these woods, reclaiming the earth, rich in detritus, becoming soil. Holy the garden, its river of stones, its moss, lilies, and lace-leaf maples. Should trees have standing? Is the Katsura aroused by the arousal of its new leaves? Its blood surges. Let the stones tell it. Let the river sing it again. Listen closely to the silence. Listen to a language not our own. Not our own, this earth. For us, only the sacrament of its fruitfulness, and the great mystery, and the mystery of our passing. The tallest trees bend, feathers in the wind, and we marvel at the sound of water in the moonlight. Not ours, this mystery we enter, this strange habitation. The tide rises, the river and the trees, the stones and the man abide. Tasting the wine, terroir, is tasting the earth and sun. Tasting the fish is breathing the sea. My brother, the blind poet, uses his ears to see. High overhead, the Southern Cross, the river of heaven, Ursa the bear. We drift in the river of heaven, under the great bear, or beneath the cross in a boat of dreams. We drift in our boat of dreams above the earth and rarely touch it unless it comes tumbling down. And yet the trees bear us up into the world. The rains cleanse us, and we eat from the clay all sacrament and abundance before we return to clay, to earth and stone, gone like the cry of the thrush, everything devoured and reborn. Devoured, devouring and reborn, the earth endures. Here where vast shadows of bending trees ripple on moonlit water, there is a world at ease. Indifferent toward our boat of dreams, our palette of temporal desires, this time is measured only by centuries of ice and fire, and by what the winds might bring. Gazing up at these same stars that inspired the artists of Lascaux, the great void, the mystery that is a hunger in the soul. The bison gone, and the mastodon, the butterfly that rode the wind to Mexico and back, the little bird that sang the dawn, all devoured and reborn. Devoured and needing to be reborn, the hungry seek a master, making the paper, grinding the ink, dipping the brush. The master says, draw the sound of the breeze and the pines, and smiling says, don't be foolish enough to draw trees. In the mind of a Buddha, not even a flower. Shiva the maker, Shiva the destroyer. At the summit of a pass through the Alps, high above timberline, I knelt at the foot of a glacier and peered down 1,000 feet at granite boulders in a creek, and for a moment knew this ancient earth, orange alpine lichen, slowly devouring stone.